Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajachana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajachana Ranjana Jamuna Tiravanachari Jamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajachana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajachana Ranjana Jamuna Tiravanachari Jamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivraja Kacharja Ashtotarita Shishimad Abhay Charanarvindam Bhakti Vedant Swami Maharaj Shilvarupadi Ki Jai Ananda Guri Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai ISKCON BBT Sangstavakacharya Shilvarupadi Ki Jai Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem se go Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shama Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan ki jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Shri Mayapur Navadip Dham ki jai. Ganga Maya Jamuna Maya ki jai. Shrimati Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Harinam Sankirtan Yagni ki jai. Srila Prabhupada's Transcendental Book Distribution ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Samveda Bhaktivinoda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. Sound is coming? Yeah. Hare Krishna, it's our good fortune to have His Grace Bhima Prabhu with us today. It's very, very rare for us to have him in Pune. Many years ago, he had come and given us a class on book distribution. In 1973, Prabhu came to St. Louis Temple. I believe his name was Bhakta Bill. Am I right, Prabhu?
I think so, yeah.
I heard that the same day he came to the temple, he decided to move in. You can see how ripe his Bhakti Sukriti was from the previous lives. He was just waiting to meet Srila Prabhupada and his devotees. So in 1974 he got initiated, and Prabhuji has been in St. Louis Temple doing book distribution, especially library Sankirtan, like bus party. He was also a part of the Radha Damodar bus party also. Prabhuji was also a part of it. In India also, all over the country, Prabhuji has been extensively traveling to schools, especially schools and colleges and universities, to put Prabhupada's books. That was one of his main services. So he had a heart for Sankirtan, and he continues to inspire devotees across the globe. Recently, I wanted to see some videos on book distribution so that I can show to devotees for inspiring them. And suddenly I stumbled across one of the videos of His Grace Bhima Prabhu going to the Juhu beach, and how he is distributing to the college students and the family people. He's actually teaching the devotees on. I have copied and kept that video. I'm going to share it with all of you. It's about 20-25 minutes video. Prabhuji is carrying a mridanga and is beating and is doing Sankirtan. And after they reach the Juhu beach, he's taking the books and he is pushing dozens of books in no time, in a very short time. How he is speaking, that you should see. There was a boy and girl. They have come there to roam around. And then after they saw Prabhuji, they both took a lot of books, plenty of books. So very inspiring to see him, even now, going out and distributing books and setting a wonderful example. From 2001 to 2017, Prabhuji has been the General Secretary of ISKCON Bureau also. And he has been a temple president of Juhu for over 11 years. And currently he has even more major service. In Mira Road, in Juhu and in Vrindavan Temple, he is the zonal secretary in these places. Even Juhu also, Prabhuji takes active part in the administration of the Juhu Temple. When I had gone to Juhu Temple first time from IIT Bombay, when we visited Juhu Temple, so the first, I am just telling you honestly my feeling of what was my experience when I first saw him. I had only seen the picture of Brahmaji in the Prabhupada's books. When I first saw, he looked like tall personality, like a demigod. So I felt like some heavenly personality has come. And after that, I got to hear a class from him also. And he has been giving for students like us from IT. He used to come there to temple. And he gives very, very beautiful classes, very lucid, very with nice examples. When he had come to Pune temple, one boy asked a question to him, Prabhu, when I walk on the MG road, when I see the shopping mall, my mind wants to go in and spend all the money and my pocket becomes empty. My mind is like a monkey, what to do? So Prabhuji said, when I walk in the road also, I also feel like going in and spending all the money, but I say no to the mind. Mind is like a monkey. So beautifully explained about the nature of the mind. So my humble request to Bhima Prabhu is, we are your next door neighbor from Bombay. So keep more frequent visits to Pune especially when the youths are coming on a weekend, on Saturdays they come in the hall below. We have 150, 200, but when the COVID is open, we may have as many as 300, 500. So we want to make a poster with your photo and everything and invite a lot of students. And we would like to have you in Pune for 2-3 days. You could come for Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Sunday we could have for the congregation, and Saturday we can have for the youth. It's very nice.
They used to bring them to Bombay, the boys.
Yeah, we can usually bring them.
But they don't come now because of lockdown?
Currently because of lockdown they don't come, but if you, later on when the lockdown is open and we invite you, especially weekends, they'll come. Very good number. So let's welcome this Bhima Prabhu to Sri Sri Radha Vrindavan Chandra Temple. Hare Bo! One important thing I forgot to tell you, Prabhu also knows Malhotra ji personally, and the land which Malhotra gave in Mahabaleshwar, that is actually given to Juhu temple, because Malhotra ji had given it to Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhuji has now developed a retreat center there. Devotees can go. His Grace Brajari Prabhu once called me and told me also that that's a beautiful place now. Few rooms are also there, and we could go do camps. He said Juhu also will come sometimes, and we can also go and we can use that. So Prabhuji has a very strong connection.
You can have japa retreats there.
We can have japa retreat, yeah. There, yeah. And also when Pune started in the early days, Prabhuji was actually the president at that time. From Juhu only the devotees came to Pune. They stayed in Lakshmi Narayan temple. And later on gradually preaching picked up. Whenever there has been management challenges in Pune, Prabhuji also was involved on behalf of Juhu. His one is Giriraj Maharaj, His Grace Bhima Prabhu, His Grace Bhajari Prabhu, all of them. So we are connected to Juhu in that way also. So thanks to His Grace Bhima Prabhu for such a shining example all these years since 1973. With such great vigor and enthusiasm, he's reaching out Prabhupada's books. I remember he used to make a CD with lot of video clips and lot of ideas for book distribution and slogans of Prabhupada and everything. And he would send to each and every temple president a copy from Juhu. In those days, every one of us used to get. So his heart is to see Prabhupada books reach nook and corner. And now it's very nice. Actually, it will be very nice to have him in Pune sometimes for the marathon book distribution time, either before or later, so that you can see all the book distributors and encourage them too. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 18, text number 13. The residents of Jambu Dweep offer prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare hi sakshat bhagavan sariranam. Hare hi sakshat bhagavan saririnam. Atma jasangnam evatoyam ipshitam. Atma jasanam evatoyam ipshitam. Hitvam ahangstvam ida yadi sajate grihe. Hitvam ahangstvam yadi sajate grihe. Tada mahatvam vayasa dampatinam. Tada mahatvam vyayasa dampatinam. Hare hi sakshat bhagavan saririnam. Atma jasanam evatoyam ipshitam. Hitva mahangstam yadi sajate grihe. Tada mahatvam yasadhang patinam. Hare Sakshat Bhagavan Sharirinam Atma Jasanam Vivatoyam Ipshitam Itva Mahangstvam Yadi Sajate Grihe Tada Mahatvam Vyayasatanam Hare Sakshat Bhagavan Atma Jasanam Hare, the Lord. He certainly, Sakshat, directly, Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sharirinam, all the living entities who have accepted material bodies, Atma, the life and soul, Jasanam, of the aquatics, Eva, like, Toyam, the vast water, Ipshitam, is desired, Hitva, giving up, Mahan, a great personality, Tam, him, Yadhi, if, Sajjate, becomes attached, Grihe, to household life, Tada, at that time, Mahatvam, greatness, Vyayasa, by age, Damvatinam, of the husband and wife. Translation. Just as aquatics always desire to remain in the vast mass of water, all conditioned living entities naturally desire to remain in the vast existence of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, if someone very great by material calculation fails to take shelter of the Supreme Soul, but instead becomes attached to material household life, his greatness is like that of a young, low-class couple. One who is too attached to material life loses all good spiritual qualities. Purport. Although crocodiles are very fierce animals, they are powerless when they venture out of the water onto land. When they are out of water, they cannot exhibit their original power. Similarly, the all-pervading Supersoul, Paramatma, is the source of all living entities, and all living entities are part and parcel of Him. When the living entity remains in contact with the all-powerful Vasudeva, the personality of Godhead, he manifests his spiritual power, exactly as the crocodile exhibits its strength in the water. In other words, the greatness of the living entity can be perceived when he is in the spiritual world, engaged in spiritual activities. Many householders, although well-educated in knowledge of the Vedas, become attached to family life. They are compared herein to crocodiles out of water. They are devoid of all spiritual strength. Their greatness is like that of a young husband and wife who, though uneducated, praise one another and become attached to their own temporary beauty. This kind of greatness is appreciated only by low-class men with no qualification. Everyone should therefore seek the shelter of the Supreme Lord, the source of all living entities. No one should waste his time in the so-called happiness of materialistic household life. In the Vedic civilization, this type of crippled life is allowed only until one's 50th year, when one must give up family life and enter either the order of Vanaprastha, independent retired life for cultivation of spiritual knowledge, or sannyas, the renounced order of life, in which one completely takes shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripa Taraham Bande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Paramanandamarvam Shri Chaitanyeshwaram. So, this verse is preceding one very famous verse that Srila Prabhupada would quote many times about the devotees of the Lord having all the good qualities of the demigods and the non-devotees being on the chariot of the mind, manoratena, they have no good qualities. So this verse is continuing that train of thought about the difference between the devotees and the non-devotees. Sometimes we see that the non-devotees, they become very accomplished in some material way. They become very big businessmen, or they develop an empire in the business world. And previously there were kings that created great empires. But Srimad Bhagavatam states here specifically that unless they're connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead in their position as a servant of the Supreme Lord, then their greatness is diminished. It becomes diminished by the material energy. Although one is a great business magnate, the next life he may not be. He may be in not such a fortunate situation. We say fortunate in a material sense. Real fortune is that one surrenders unto Krishna and renders service to Krishna. Sometimes we think that the non-devotees are more organized than the devotees. And that may be true in a material sense. They may have so many different technological advancements that they employ in sense gratification. But at the end, their goal is just that, sense gratification. They're not interested in their relationship, what's going to happen in the next life. They don't give it a thought. They don't consider it. Right? So when the devotees first used to go out on the streets and chant and dance in New York City, so one article, it came that they're crazy, they're like crazies, right? And you can imagine what the shock was for them, Westerners, to see somebody come out in a bedsheet and their pajama, right? They must have escaped from the sanitarium or something, from the lunatic house. But Prabhupada said, who's crazy? Think about it. They're working, they're going here and there, right? But if you, just like in India, if somebody's roaming on the street, right? They're all dirty, and they're talking so much gibberish. What do you say that person is? He's a pagal. Pagal ho gaya, right? But that is the situation of everyone in the material world. Everyone. They're all pagal. They say we're pagal, but we say they're pagal. And think about it. If a madman's walking on the street, you can ask him, "Kahan ja rahe?" And he'll give no answer. He don't know. Right? All the materialists, they're working so hard. But in their next life, where are they going to go? They have no idea. No idea. So somebody who doesn't know where they're going is a mad fellow. You should, first of all, when you go out the door, you think, okay, now where am I going? I'm endeavoring for something, but for what? Where am I headed? In the same way, people are endeavoring for so many things, but where they're going in their next life, they have no idea. Whereas the devotees of the Lord, they know. They're working also. Maybe not so technologically advanced, but they're performing activities in relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore they know where they're going. They're going to Krishna. So, they're the real sane persons, the devotees of the Lord who are spending their time, spending their talents, spending their efforts on trying to please Krishna. Then they're the real successful persons. The real successful persons are those who surrender to Krishna. There's no credit for someone who may be, have a great empire or a big business, but in the end of the day, he becomes the, puppy dog in the hands of a woman. There's no credit there. They've lost their credibility. They've lost their greatness. So, really to avoid such a pitfall in this material world, Krishna's made the material world so like a jail. It's like a jail. Right? It's for where all the persons who don't know how to act in the spiritual world. Yesterday I gave the example, I'll give it here too. If you go to an Indian wedding, they have these big fat weddings in India. Right? Everybody has nice clothes and opulent, nice flower decorations. It's like Janmashtami or something. But they're celebrating something else. But if some beggar off the street comes, dirty clothes, and not, smelling, what will happen? Are bag jao. Yahan se jao. Right? And he's not fit to be in such a place. He's not fit. Same way, in the spiritual world, everyone's dedicated to Krishna. And they're all shining. They're brilliant. Right? They have wives, but they're not attracted by their wives because they're so much attracted by Krishna. Right? And they're doing so many things for the pleasure of Krishna. And they're changing to different forms even for the pleasure of Krishna. Prabhupada said that once in a morning walk. You may be a blade of grass and you can desire to become a flower in Krishna's garland, and then you can change your form. Amazing things happening, right, in the spiritual world. But those persons who don't know how to act, where do they go? They come to this material world. So this is like the jail is not just a place where people go to who have performed crimes, but it's also supposed to be a correctional institution. You know, that's another name for a jail. There's a correctional institution. So this material world is a correctional institution so that we can become rectified. When we become rectified, we become fit. Just the example given here is the crocodile. They're very powerful animals in the water. When the elephant, Gajendra, was fighting with the crocodile was more powerful because he was in his element, which is the water. Right? And the same crocodile, outside of the water, he's not so powerful. He doesn't have that kind of Shakti outside of the water. Similarly, the living entity, outside of his relationship with Krishna, when he's forgotten his relationship with Krishna, that relationship actually is always there. It's called Chintamani Ras, and it manifests in the spiritual world as the servant and the served. But in the material world, that relationship changes to Atma and Paramatma. Atma and Paramatma. Now the Atma is in so many ways trying to enjoy in this material world, forgetting his relationship with the Supreme Lord, who takes the position of the Paramatma. The Lord, he's ready to reciprocate with the living entity, and he enjoys that. He has so many relationships. He has relationships with all the living entities. And this is an amazing thing, is that each relationship that he has with every living entity is a little bit different. So he's known as Rasaraj. He enjoys that ras of interacting with all the different living entities. And each one's different. Just like in this room, nobody's face is different. Everybody's face is, everyone's face is not the same. We don't have the same face. We have different faces. And even the snowflakes, of course, in Pune it doesn't snow. But in America it snows a lot. I can remember going out on Sankirtan, freezing in the snow. And it gets so cold that somebody wants to buy a book, but you can't make the change because your hands are frozen. You can't, right? He knows. And sometimes it's so cold you can only stay out for 20 minutes, and then your feet begin to freeze. It's one of the reasons, I'll confess now, one of the reasons I came to India was to get rid of the cold. But each snowflake, every snowflake, millions and millions of snowflakes, each one has a different crystal design, right? So just see the imagery that Krishna can create. Everyone is different. You'll not find one snowflake the same as the other. In the same way, all of our relationships with Krishna are different. There's some uniqueness about it, right? And Krishna wants to enjoy that. Your specific, unique relationship with him, he wants to enjoy that relationship because he's Purusham, Adi Purusham, the supreme enjoyer. So he's waiting. And if he sees a little spark of interest in developing that relationship, then he'll make arrangements for us to increase that and get closer to him. And we begin that relationship by chanting, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. It's not extraneous to us. It's there within the heart. We simply have to awaken it, and the chanting of the holy name awakens that relationship and strengthens it so that we can actually shine in our original glory. The living entity is glorious. He has qualities that are just like Krishna's qualities. He's Sat, Chit, Ananda. But in order for that, those wonderful qualities that the living entity has to actually manifest, the relationship has to be there with Krishna. Reestablish the lost relationship. The Chinmay Ras has to be again regained. It's lost in our own desire to try and enjoy in this material world in various ways through sense gratification. And the process of devotional service can reawaken that relationship. We can again understand our position. Right now we're in bewilderment by chanting, rendering devotional service. We can become convinced that this material world is a miserable place. It's not a place of enjoyment. And at the end, we can rejoin with Krishna in the spiritual world. Hare Krishna. It's 8:55. Do we got time for a few questions? Anyone has any questions? Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you very much for your wonderful class. You were mentioning that Krishna is a Rasaraj and he has a unique relationship with each and every jiva. You gave snowflakes example. So we are his parts and parcels. So qualitatively we are same. So we should also be able to do that relationship. But quantitatively we are different. So we are not able to, we cannot have it every jiva. But at least those jivas who are around us, who come in touch with us, we interact with them once in a while or regularly or once in life. But our relationship is not so good. So what to do? We sometimes have strenuous
That relationship with other living entities can be very good if it has a common denominator, and that's Krishna. If we're together on the idea that Krishna is the enjoyer and we should work cooperatively with one another for his enjoyment, then that relationship can be very good. But otherwise, if the relationship is based on something else, like Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport, two low-class couples. Low-class means they don't understand that Krishna is God. They think that life is meant to enjoy. So I'll enjoy your body and you'll enjoy my body. This will definitely create, it may go on for some time, but there'll be a lot of, rockiness in that relationship. So Srila Prabhupada started the International Society for Krishna Consciousness so that devotees could come together and have proper relationships, have loving relationships. But that loving relationship has to be based on our relationship with Krishna. Just like in the temple, there's so many things that are going on, but for the pleasure of Krishna. There's cooking, there's flower garland making, dressing the deities. It's all in relation to Krishna. And when the devotees cooperate together and work together for those services to Krishna, that relationship becomes very nice, becomes very sweet. The only problem comes in is when our ego, our false ego is there, that it comes in that, I'm the best servant of Krishna, or, in the mode of passion, I'm going to be the best servant of Krishna. Where in reality, a devotee always thinks himself that I have no quality to serve Krishna at all. I'm just helping other devotees that know how to serve Krishna. Then the relationships become very powerful. There was a person, his name was Bhakta Jim, and he wrote a book, The Life and Times of Bhakta Jim by Bhakta Jim. So he joined in the Chicago temple just after Srila Prabhupada left. And he wrote all of his memories and kind of kept a diary or something and wrote a book about his experience of trying to join the temple. So anyway, later on, his parents deprogrammed him, and he left, and so many things. And 30 years later, he found that his memories of that. And he had gone on to become an author. He used to write computer manuals. In the old days, the software would come with a big, thick book, so you could understand how to operate the software. So he used to write those, this Bhakta Jim. But in that book, The Life and Times of Bhakta Jim by Bhakta Jim, he mentioned two things, although his relationship with the devotees soured after some time. When he thought back about those times of being in the temple and being with the devotees, he said that was the happiest time of my life. And also he said that by his association with the devotees, he understood about the soul. There's a big misconception that everyone thinks I'm the body and I have a soul. If you ask me, I have a soul. Just like you have a t-shirt and you have a sweater, I have a soul. Well, then who are you if you have a soul? So Krishna consciousness helps one to easily understand that I am soul, not that something I have. Right? So these two things Bhakta Jim learned, even though he left and etc. And it's natural, because when devotees come together, they learn how to serve Krishna. And even a little bit of that mentality of trying to serve Krishna, trying to please Krishna, it's so relishable, you can never forget it. And you realize that time actually I was happy. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur tells a story. We have time? It's not a long story. There was a zamindar, and he had many lands, used to grow things, right? But he needed laborers. So he was kind of heavy in Galidia, the laborers. So they would leave, and then he was in problem because he needed laborers. So he asked one other zamindar what to do. He said, you feed them basmati rice and gawar ghee. So he said, okay, I'll do that. So he started feeding his laborers, basmati rice and gawar ghee. So then, one day one laborer was not working properly, and he, chastised him like anything. And that laborer became upset and he left. But after some time, the laborer came back and again began to work. And the zamindar asked him, how you came back? And he said, basmati rice and gawar ghee. So, the spiritual master gives hearing and chanting about Krishna. And it's so relishable. And he also guides how to serve Krishna, how to please Krishna. And that's a relishable thing. So the soul becomes nourished by that. The soul becomes enlivened by that. So even if the soul goes away, and that's not so amazing because material energy is very powerful, and our conditioning goes on for almost unlimited time. Right? We can't imagine when we weren't conditioned. So that's not so unusual. But that little spark, that little taste of serving Krishna selflessly, trying to please the spiritual master, please the devotees, and to please Krishna, some relish is there, just like basmati rice and gawar ghee. And one day we'll think, I want that again. Any other questions?
Maybe I'll ask again. Sometimes it seems like it appears like nobody has false ego, and the service is there, same service, but two devotees have differences of opinions as to how to go ahead with that service. In this way, somebody says this way. So there is a clash kind of. Both want to do service. Everybody wants service should go ahead, but then this kind of scenario. So how to...
Yeah, there shouldn't be a difference of opinion, because the goal is to please Krishna. So where's the question? If we're trying to please Krishna, how can there be a difference of opinion? Right? But when that desire to serve Krishna becomes overshadowed by our desire for whatever, name, fame, distinction, adoration, respect, it becomes, then there becomes a difference of opinion. But there's no difference of opinion if the desire is to please Krishna. If somebody, there can be competition. That's accepted. Prabhupada encouraged it. I remember one time Radha Damodar traveling Sankirtan party, they had 80, 90 brahmacharis, traveling everywhere in buses and vans, and they were distributing so many books. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj was in charge of the Radha Damodar traveling Sankirtan party. But then Jayatirtha Prabhu in England, he also began to organize book distribution very nicely, and it became quite a threat to the Radha Damodar's, dominion over book distribution. And Prabhupada said, if Jayatirtha becomes number one, Tamal Krishna Maharaj will have a heart attack. So he encouraged competition. Even in the spiritual world, the cowherd boys are thinking, I'll touch Krishna first. And the other one's saying, no, I'll touch Krishna first. But they never lose the focus. It's Krishna is their goal. Okay, thank you very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitai Gaur Premanandi.